Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de, well, how to cut your expenses. I mean, that's half of the equation how to get to early retirement, right? You spend less and need less, you get to freedom faster. Obviously, making more money is the other side, and one can easily argue that bit is actually the better accelerant. Still, being able to live a life that's simply filled with normal needs is important too, right? Because that would imply that you're impervious to the bane of fire, which is lifestyle inflation. Hey, XenPuck here. Ever since I retired a few years ago, I can still hear my old colleagues being incredulous as to how I could do so, even though presumably we all made similar types of income, right? That's absolutely true, by the way. I've never been the very best at any of the companies that I worked for, right? I only made it to middle management after all. However, the reason why I could save 70% of my income and watch my peers save much less is very, very simple, right? I don't spend money on entire categories of things that do not matter. And somehow over time that's managed to increase my savings rate significantly. Of course, I always caution against being too focused only on cutting costs, right? Making money is always slightly more helpful, theoretically speaking. This is because in the cost versus income debate, there's no ceiling on how much income one could make, right? But there does exist a floor under which costs cannot really go below. However, having said that, I live in the USA, a country of tremendous abundance, and to be honest, most people here absolutely can live a simpler lifestyle. So today I'll start a series on types of products you absolutely do not need to spend more than the bare minimum amount of money on, okay? I know, most Americans just love the brand name stuff, because reputation, I guess? But the following categories, frankly, should be exempt from that mindset, right? I'll tell you my rationale, of course. Please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe if you want more of this type of content. Or whatever, okay? I'm rich already, so what do I care? Number one, first type of product. I'm going to talk about cereals, grains, rice, or bread. Honestly, your carb of choice, right? Or I could even extend it if you're in a all-fat or all-protein type of diets. Then I guess the most generic meat that you buy, or tofu, whatever that is. Obviously, the difference in cost between a name brand cereal versus a store brand cereal isn't very much, right? But these are foods that essentially we buy all the times, right? Now, these are the foundational items upon which we're built, essentially, right? And frankly, in this type of product, I see zero difference between name brand versus not, right? Now, some people might argue, like, in terms of meats, that could be a little different depending on how it's raised, at least if ethics or nutritional values or that sort of thing matters to you. But grains and rice, seriously, maybe someday we'll want to be, only playing Mozart to our cornfields or wheat fields or whatever, but I hope I never live to see such a day of silliness, all right? So yeah, this is a great start. Now, I know the cost difference isn't big, but this is basically a constant weekly, or however you shop, a weekly recurring type of cost, right? Also, this is a matter of principle, right? Why should you be paying a significant percentage premium simply for some company's branding, right? Not to mention, most of the branding stuff's been under fire for their historical insensitivities these days anyway, so might as well just go with whatever your trusted local supermarket's brand is, right? And in the vast majority of the cases, the actual back-end product might even be the same. So you are basically just ignoring the cost of branding only, right? So the cost of branding and marketing on the side of like Quaker Oats or whatever, right? Number two, outfits for work. Now this is a bit of a situational call out, right? Obviously, if you work in a uniform, there's not much leeway in terms of this item. However, if you do have a choice of work in an office or something like that, and these days probably at home, I'm sure you've realized how nice it is to not have to worry about whether you're dressed to impress. Like, let's be honest, right? Unless you work in fashion, what you wear to work is just not what people would be focusing on, right? Like, your work should be what they're focusing on, not your clothes. Don't get me wrong, you should wear whatever's appropriate and obviously have clean clothes, right? What I'm trying to get at is generic and boring is totally fine for work clothes. Save your fancy outfit budget for going out for fun or dates, right? I mentioned this one because when I first started out in my own career, I wanted better suits, right? Because my first suit was from like Men's Warehouse, right? Some outlet like that. Even though at no point in my 16-year professional career was I required to wear any suits. Heck, I never even had to wear collared shirts, right? Yet I've spent probably a few $1,000s accumulating maybe like 50 dress shirts from a major brand that I have never ever needed for work, okay? I mean, this type of spending for me is a moot point because I made much more money over time. But that's still thousands of dollars that I didn't actually need to spend. To this day, I keep moving this entire wardrobe that I need less and less over time. This is a great example of stuff that basically wears on me instead of the other way around, right? If I was braver, to be honest, I should just toss them out, especially now that I'm retired. This shirt is one of those shirts that I bought in my, younger days, chasing that kind of stuff, right? To look professional. It's ridiculous, okay? Now, finally, type number 3, holiday gifts, right? The kind that stacks under the tree in a pile, right? Because to me, quantity really shouldn't mean that much. I know there's a huge tradition in Americana that everybody should be getting like a pile of gifts. And yet, my wifey grew up in that type of a household. And when I asked her what memorable gifts she's got, she's stumped, okay? In fact, she can only think of the first PC that she got as like a 14-year-old, okay? Decades of getting multiple gifts every year, and none of them were memorable at all, except one, okay? And I wouldn't even call a PC like a real Christmas gift. That's more like a tool that, your kid at a certain age will absolutely need, right? So ask yourself the same question. If you grew up getting more than one gift per holiday occasion, then which one do you actually recall after 1 year, 5, 10? Now, I'm not saying that gifts themselves are a bad idea, right? But I am a firm believer that it's the thought that counts, right? And over time, as my network has grown, the less I attach meaning to stuff that just cost money, right? And just being deluged with more and more stuff, I don't know, that's even less interesting to me, right? I know my wifey actually complains that it's becoming harder and harder to shop for me because I don't feel like I need all that stuff, right? But as I've told her, and I'll share with you guys, I think what a great gift is it's really whatever comes from someone's heart, like a letter, or you make something that's custom, right? Because that's not something that can be replaced or something that anyone else can have. That's much more important than receiving a bunch of trinkets that gives you an endorphin boost for 5 seconds, then immediately is forgotten, right? Because that type of purchasing decisions just create a junk pile unnecessarily, okay? So don't do it, right? Of course, I know I'm speaking about all these items from a position of privilege. I mean, hey, I got my whole generic brand cereal rice habit from when I was just plain on poor. That's the truth, right? But God knows, maybe I just have cheap taste because I've never been able to tell the difference between regular produce versus organic. Of course, not to mention, tangent here. Organic is total BS. That in itself is a big marketing scheme, right? And has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. I hope you get the gist of what I'm getting at, right? Don't feel pressured by convention or social expectations or marketing and branding to go with brands that you may have heard of, right? Because that's just advertising, especially not on boring stuff like carbs or work clothes. Now, on the other hand, of course, if you must succumb to the social expectation of buying presents, at least make it personal and have it be much more likely, to be remembered, right? At the same time, saving money, right? These personal touches are the things that, I think your loved ones will actually care about, rather than whatever products that anyone can buy over the internet in a developed country, right? Do you guys have more categories of stuff that you refuse to splurge on? Let me know in the comments below. Cheers. À la prochaine.